Appropriate time to bring Joan in and to tell us why millennials matter.
Thank you. So to the question of, as leaders work to reconcile enterprise profitability and employee prosperity, what's the pathway? What's the solution? I believe that it is inclusive leadership, but that pathway to profitability and prosperity is actually millennials. Millennials. Those entitled, narcissistic, selfie-loving, snapping, swiping, blogging millennials. So you'll come to learn that I believe that they're much more than those negative stereotypes. And please raise your hand if any of you attended the Drucker Challenge winner breakout earlier. You would have seen the talented and brilliant millennials amongst us, and I also challenge all of you to spend some time with them before you leave Vienna. I spend a lot of time on college campuses and with early career professionals in some of the largest companies in the world to some of the smallest startups. I am quite bullish that millennials have the potential to disrupt workplace dynamics and make way for those inclusive leadership behaviors that Tammy mentioned. So over the last couple years, I've led 3 global studies. The first was around millennials. What's their values? What motivates them? What's holding them back from getting the success that they desire? And we studied 7 global growth hubs: the US, UK, Hong Kong, China, Germany, Brazil, and India. The second study was around how women advance in the workforce. What are the enablers and barriers to their success and representation? The third right now is around minorities, beginning with African American, Hispanic, Indian, and Chinese employees. So research is so important, right? But putting those insights into action is critical, and that's what I want to share. So millennials are the future. In less than 10 years, 3 out of 4 employees in the global workforce are going to be millennials. This is happening at a time when, in just the next couple years, 30 to 40% of baby boomers are expected to retire. So that exodus of talent leaves a ton of positions open. Who's poised to lead? Well, Gen X has certainly waited their turn long enough, but they're an unusually small cohort. It's millennials. So when you look at millennials, who are they? Well, certainly they're ambitious, but they're also really eager to learn. We have 6.75 million millennials that are taking online courses. They are leading that online learning movement. 1 out of 4 millennials under the age of 29 are balancing both work and school, probably because of those rising costs of education. We all know that they are digital natives, and certainly that has changed how they think and process information, but it actually has influenced how they trust and remember user-generated content, 50% more so than traditional sources. But that last point up there, when you think about the seismic shifts of a generation, what truly shapes their values, it's not them being digital natives. It's actually the growing inequality around the world. So in the US, our nation has become 3 times more unequal since the day the first millennials were born. And that divide between who has privilege and who doesn't is becoming steeper. And sometimes it's more challenging in situations than that we see of gender and possibly even race. So that triggers something deep in millennials. So with our study, again, in those 7 global growth hubs, well, what did we learn universally? What motivates them? I don't think these things are going to surprise you, that they want meaning and purpose, and they want high compensation and recognition. But it's how they define those things that starts to separate the myth from reality. Meaning and purpose. So everybody always thinks they need this steady diet of passion and altruism, and they want to save the world. But in our study, 71% of millennials said that achieving the goals set before them, for themselves and for their team, that's an aspect of meaning and purpose. This deep alignment to your organization's mission. They want to be a valued contributor. That's why they want to be closer to their bosses and their team members and have a space that inspires them to have that collaboration. Earlier this year, Columbia Business School had hired us to help them evolve their strategy around communicating with their millennial-dominated student body. So what we uncovered is that even communication can be a source of meaning and purpose, that if it's authentic, transparent, and timely, that's going to increase student pride, student engagement, and ultimately engagement as an alumni, contribution back to your alma mater. The second point about high compensation, millennials have a bad rap when it comes to money. We think that they're money hungry, they want titles, pay hikes, promotions all the time, but actually they just want that financial security that was not afforded to them. There's also a lot of friction in the workforce around dual career couples. So over 80% of millennials are in a relationship with a partner or a spouse that also has a full-time job. A very high percentage of Gen X as well. But less than 50% of baby boomers are in that situation. So this is influencing what millennials are demanding out of work, life, how they're making those choices. And so as much as I talk about millennials, they matter, the future is female. And so 40% of the workforce is female. In the next decade, we expect 1 billion women to enter the workforce globally. Young women today are bombarded with all these empowering mantras of lean in and band bossy, be bossy, sorry not sorry, girl boss, right? But this is an insight that shook me to my core in our research. When we asked if you were offered a senior leadership position tomorrow, millennial women were 50% more likely to turn it down than millennial men. So digging deeper, what happened to that career confidence that we see, that we hear, that we are embedding in them in the media? It's that seeing is believing. They're still not seeing women that have it all at the top of these corporations, the top of our Fortune 500 companies. They're also seeing the values and the practices of leaders not be inclusive, which is what they want, which is what they demand. We're not seeing enough of those beneficial, family-friendly policies that actually allow you to achieve what you want out of work and life. So what is inclusive leadership? Inclusive leadership means having the ability to leverage diverse perspectives to win in the marketplace. It means being as a leader so self-aware that you know that your personal experiences are shaping your values and that you have to figure out how to cultivate a speak-up culture. Why are millennials going to be the pathway to inclusive leadership? Well, first off, almost half identify with a race or ethnicity that's non-white. They're the most diverse generation in history. I also think they're the most tolerant generation in history. A study through the Center for Talent Innovation found that when asking employees about their perceived level of comfort with people of diverse backgrounds, 78% of millennials felt very comfortable with people of diverse backgrounds, versus 27% of baby boomers. That gap widened when asked about perceived comfort around those with different sexual orientations. So inclusive leadership is really important. Here's 4 examples. One is mentorship.
Now, please.
I will. I think you can tell that relationships matter, mentorship and sponsorship. So I did want to end with one question and one challenge. The question is, what percentage of your time are you spending with rising stars, early career professionals in your organization? Even the Drucker Challenge winners here today. The challenge is, since I know many of you attend the forum often, is that next year you bring someone in the first decade of their career, either your company sponsors them or you yourself. I think that's what's going to ultimately change the conversation. Thank you.
Thanks, Faye.